Hello and welcome to this latest Harts podcast, and I'm delighted to have with me this morning Mr. Durgham Shamot. Durgham, welcome to this Harts podcast.
Thank you, Stephen.
Obviously, you're of Jordanian descent. When did you actually come over to this country?
I came to the UK in 1983 as an overseas student. I finished my GCSEs in Jordan, and I walked into the house. My dad was sat there. I remember the day. And he said, "You go into London?" I said, "What, just like that, Dad?" He said, "Yeah, well, no university will accept you in Jordan. So the only place for you to go and do your higher education is London." And this is how I arrived, August 1983.
And what did you study when you were over here?
My first year was spent at North Manchester College doing an English language course. And once I finished that, I moved on to St. John's College in Manchester to do a BTEC National Diploma in Business.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the easiest. It was a struggle. The English wasn't there at the time.
Did you speak English when you came over?
Very little.
Right.
Very little. Just the basic English, but it wasn't an in-depth English as it is today. So, and to be fair, I did struggle through my college days to the extent where one day my coordinator said to me, "Durgham, you're not going to make this course.
Right.
It's best if you leave and go and improve your English and come back." And I thought, there is no way I'm going to do that. Because if I did that, I would have ended up in Jordan as a failure.
Right.
So I made sure I studied so hard, and I proved my point to her, and this is very honest, I got a distinction in my final year.
Fantastic.
And then I finished my college, which at that time it was similar to having A-levels. And then I moved on to Salford University to do a course in economics.
And after that, when you qualified, you got a degree in economics?
I got a degree in economics, and at the same time, I was already married to my wife, or I married my wife at the age of 18, within 1 year of arriving into the UK. By early 1985, I had my first son, Nick, who's 37 now. Yes, and then a couple of years later, we had another child, Omar. So it's been quite a tough journey. So when I finished university, the choice was either you go to Jordan and work with the family business, or you do something in the UK. So I decided to set up in a carpet cleaning business in 1988, knocking on doors, canvassing.
How did that go?
It was tough for a student graduate to go and clean carpet. There is absolutely no shame in cleaning carpets or having a business as carpet cleaning. But again, they looked at me as this young boy, an overseas, an immigrant really. And not many people trusted me when I knocked on the door to start with. But then that sort of grew slowly from households. I started doing a few pubs, and then I moved into restaurants. And by 1991, 92, the business went bankrupt. I couldn't sustain it.
Why?
It wasn't bringing in enough money.
Yeah.
It will not feed the family. I remember having a big mortgage at the time, and I had a couple of loans and leases for the equipment. And business really started to die down. And I think 1992, we had a bit of a recession, didn't we?
Yeah.
The recession hit, and people just didn't want to spend their money. So I closed the business, and I decided it's time for me to go back home.
Okay.
That didn't materialize. I didn't want to go back to Jordan as a failure with 2 children and a wife. And I thought I'll have to find myself something else. My father-in-law used to work on a building site, and he said to me, "Durgham, we need some laborers. Why don't you come and work with us?" And I remember at the time my wage was about £15 or £16 a day. And I worked on roofs as a hod carrier for about 18 months. And then one night I had enough of that job, and I thought to myself, you can't carry on like this. You are a graduate, surely to God there's something better for you.
Yeah.
Do you go to Jordan or do you carry on? And during conversation one night with a friend of mine who was doing biomedical engineer at UMS University, he asked me, "What are you doing with yourself, Durgham?" And I said, to be honest, nothing. I said, I'm gonna pack up and go back to Jordan. So he said to me, why didn't you start a medical supplies company? I said, oh my God, I studied economics. What do I know about medical supplies? So he said, I'll put you in touch with somebody in Saudi, a friend of his.
Yeah.
I contacted them. They bought, their first order from me was £7.35. A spare part for an anesthesia machine. And I remember it cost me £12.50 to send it out by DHL. But it gave me an insight. Although the order was very, very small,
Yeah.
I thought, why not fly to Saudi and meet a few people and see how that goes.
And what happened when you went over there? Were they willing to meet you? Were they willing to give you business? You freshly started up. You had no history behind you.
I had absolutely nothing. I had my business cards. They were the cheapest business cards you will ever buy. I remember paying £2 per 100.
Right.
They were in gold colour, absolutely awful business cards. And I went knocking on doors in Saudi Arabia. I'll walk in, introduce myself. If you need anything from Europe, I can act as your agent, etc., etc. I flew back. It was one of the hardest trips I've ever experienced in my life, because I went to Saudi Arabia for 9 nights with £120. So I paid for my ticket, but all the money I had was £120. I stayed in a 1-star hotel, in a 2-star hotel. I even slept on a hotel's roof with a lot of other labourers,
Really?
Asian labourers. But I had to do something. Came back to the UK after 9 days, and I thought, let's wait and see what happens. And for 6 months, absolutely nothing happened. And during that time, I had a lot of debt, a lot on the credit cards, in excess of 100,000 on a credit card. My mortgage was in arrears, tens of thousands of pounds, and it was really very, very dull moments in my life. And I thought,
how did you feel at that point? Did you feel life was collapsing around you?
it was absolutely collapsing, and the thought in my head was, I have to go back and live with the family in Jordan. But I couldn't bring myself to the fact that I'm going to go back as a failure. There you are, Dad, you spent tens of thousands on me studying, but I came with absolutely nothing. Can I work for you now? And that thought absolutely destroyed my soul. I didn't want to do that.
Was there a lot of pressure put on you by the family to go back, or?
To be fair, no, because I didn't tell the family the truth. I didn't tell them what my financial situation was like.
Okay.
My father thought I was doing okay. I was earning a wage, but not a great deal. But I'm surviving. And again, after I came back from Saudi, after 6 months, nothing happened, and that's when I decided, right, it's time to pack up and go to Jordan. It doesn't matter what the family gonna say.
Yeah.
I'm in a survival mode now. I need to feed the family. The next morning, I get a call from somebody I visited in Saudi.
Really?
And they say, Durgham, you visited us a few months ago. It was the pilgrims' times in Saudi Arabia, and they wanted a special wheelchair for obese people. You get a standard one, I think, with a seat 600 wide. They wanted it to be 800 to take heavy people. Can you sort this out for us, Durgham? And I said, I've never dealt with wheelchairs, but I'll give it a go. And I contacted a couple of people in China, and one company said to me, yes, we will make them for you. And I remember at that time I made £6,500 profit on these wheelchairs.
Yeah.
I managed to shut a few people up.
Yeah.
With my debtors, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, there's a lot of business here. So I started contacting the people I visited again, and I built a little bit of a decent business. It wasn't generating hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions of pounds, but it gave me a wage.
Yeah.
A wage that was 2-3 times the wage I earned on roofs or carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2004. Again, business started to slow down in the Middle East for various reasons. And then 2004, my cat takes ill. So I take it to the local veterinary surgery in Gatley. And as the surgeon started treating the cat, I asked her, where are you buying your stuff from? I said, we buy from so-and-so, various companies in the UK. I said, but I can supply all these syringes and needles and your go swabs and dressing material. Would you give me a list of what you're buying? Just let me have a look. 2 days later, the surgeon calls me and said, right, Durgham, the list is ready. So I was very cheeky to say, can you list the prices you're paying as well, if you don't mind? I said, absolutely, Durgham, because I was no threat at the time to anyone.
Yeah.
And I called the hair surgery, got the paper, went back to the office, I looked at the prices and I thought, my God, you are paying way over the odds, because I was already selling this stuff, the medical consumables, to a number of Middle Eastern countries. I made some calculations and I thought I can double my money, but yet be half of the price of anybody else's. Went back to this client, my local veterinary surgery, and I asked her if she'd buy from me. And she said, yeah, Durgham, let me have some samples. Fast forward 20 years, she's still my client today, one of my best clients, and we expanded the business.
So how did you actually expand the business? Because obviously you started with literally nothing, because your previous business went, and all the best businessmen have done the same. Richard Branson's done the same.
Absolutely.
So how did you actually grow the business to the point that it is today? Do you want to tell a little bit to the listeners about what the business does today as well?
Well, the business today, the core of the business is supplying medical consumables to the medical industry in the UK and overseas. But if I go back a little bit, in 2004, 2005, I was supplying only 24 products. Today we supply 7,000 products. I started in a very little office, I remember 120 square feet on my own, and I had absolutely nothing.
So, you started from selling them a very small amount. How did you grow the business to be able to cope with 800 surgeries, and not only just Pets at Home Group, but all the other surgeries that's around here, and also then expanding into the NHS as well?
As you know, the medical field is absolutely massive, and for you to learn everything and know everything is very, very difficult. So the trick we used is that we listen to customers. What do you want me to stock for you? What do you want me to buy from you? Where are you buying from today? I'm buying from so-and-so. What is the brand name? Make a comparison with other products out there. Make sure the quality is good. And slowly and gradually, we started to obtain list of products, and we started to bring in, every year, we added probably 20%, 30% to the product portfolio.
So it's a gradual process.
It was a very much gradual process. It would have been a nightmare to stock 6,000-7,000 lines from the start. Firstly, we didn't have the money to buy it.
Yeah.
And secondly, we didn't understand every single product. So it had to be done gradually. Luckily enough, I'm quite patient when it comes to business. And I never chased the money at the time. So money didn't matter to me at the time. I set up in this business just mainly to feed the family. So whatever money I earned was good enough for me. And maybe that thought's still in my mind today. I still don't chase the money.
What's the biggest challenge you faced in building the business from where it was to where it is?
The biggest challenge, if you ask this to a lot of other business people, they'll probably say to you, raising finances, opening the market. But I had an advantage by being the most competitive. So every time we visited a client, when we left that meeting, they were scratching their heads. So I knew for a fact. Our success rate from meetings was 99.9%. We've hardly ever went into a meeting where the client decided not to buy. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You're spending $1 million, you're going to spend $500,000 now.
Yeah.
So it made you think about your decision the minute we left. I think my biggest challenge was finding the time to run the business and also see to the family, and working very hard. I understand from my past in business, if you want to succeed, then it is a 7-day job. It's a 15, 18 hour a day. So the difficulty is being disciplined. The challenge is to discipline yourself. I used to go into the office with absolutely nothing to do. I used to clean my desk, over the floor, readjust the pictures on the wall. But because I was doing that, I was staring my luck. And things will happen on that day. Even if it's an order for £20, even if it's an order for £30, it gives you that little bit of an insight. Yeah, look, I know it's £30, but that could be 300, it could be 3,000. Just take your time and don't rush. And again, I always repeat it, don't chase the pennies. Chase the success. Capture the market, and then money will roll later.
Did you have a vision for the business?
Absolutely not.
Do you have a vision now for the business?
I have a massive vision now. At the start, it was, as they say, hand to mouth.
Yeah.
Not much money coming in. But obviously, as the business expanded and it grew, and we've taken a big share of the market, firstly, I couldn't do it on my own. It's become a little bit too big for me. But the vision, the current vision, is to see the IMS name and the IMS brand in every country that require our goods. And we are working very, very hard on this now. 2014, 2015, somebody came to sell me a product, and as they come to leave, they said to me, Durgham, why don't I work for you? I said, to do what? He said, I don't mind, I am an NHS consultant. I've been with the NHS for 30 years. I've retired from the NHS. I want to set up on my own, but I don't have the guts and the courage to do that. But I can bring my experience to IMS, and I'll see if we can do something with the NHS. And that was 2015, 2016. This gentleman was with me for 2 years and he didn't earn one penny. We didn't have a return on investment for 2 years. The day I decided to sit him down and tell him that he's not cutting it for me, this is the truth. That morning he walked in and he said, right, £250,000 your first deal for the NHS. I said, oh my God. He said, I told you, just be patient with me and I'll bring the business.
And growing now, what is your challenge you face? Because I know delegating is always an issue. You always want to be on the shop floor. You always want to make sure everything's working to how it should be. But can you separate yourself from that part of the business now, or do you always find yourself going around? For instance, I know some other businessmen go around their shops on a regular basis. Do you go around the warehouses and say, this isn't right, or that's not right?
I still do that, Stephen, and only 2 weeks ago they came to me and they said, look, we are tight on space. We need to source away from the office storage. And I said, well, don't do anything until I have a look. I went to the warehouses, I looked at them, and I thought, no, we don't need to store anywhere else away from the house, but he needs Durgham to roll his sleeves up, go back to the old days, on the forklift. And I managed to create for them over 300 pallet spaces in 2 days. They were absolutely gobsmacked. You shouldn't be doing it, boss. We will do it, boss. And I said to them, I'm afraid you can't do it the way I do it. So they were going to spend about £30,000, £40,000 to move the stock somewhere else. And I saved them that money within 2 days. But the respect you get from your staff after that is unbelievable. I still go around my shelves. I still tidy up. I still make sure the boxes are all symmetrical on the shelf. I wipe it. I dust them down. Yes, I love my business, Stephen, and I love to be involved. I'm not a desk man. I don't like to be behind a desk.
What do you hate most whilst you're working? What do you hate most?
What do I hate most about working? Probably people not acting as fast as they should. They're not acting on instructions fast enough. But apart from that, I really don't hate anything about working. I love my IMS. I still wake up at 5 every morning, even now. And I still work till 10, 11 o'clock. But I'm afraid if you want success in business, and if you build that business from absolutely nothing, remember I said I built this business with £120 in my pocket and a ticket, and a flight ticket to Saudi Arabia. I just can't let go. I'm much better nowadays. So I tend to go home a little bit earlier. So I finish about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I like to spend an hour or two with the family, but then after tea, it is time to get the laptop up and get on with it. And I did that exactly that till 11:30 last night, and starting again at 6:30 this morning.
What do you think is what characteristics do you think a businessman will need to succeed?
Look, hard work, most important thing. You hear a lot of people saying, well, how am I going to juggle business with family? And I've learned something during my 25, 30 years in business. Family is the most important thing in your life. And nobody can take that away from you. But they're not the most urgent. The most urgent is your business. Because without your business, without you working hard, without earning that money, you'll have a very sad life at home. So while I understand many people say family, oh, I need to spend some time with the family, fine, but they're not the most urgent thing in your life. And honesty, transparency. But because we are honest, cards on the table, we don't profiteer, we don't cheat the customers, we don't, what shall I say, for example, our telephone is not allowed to ring more than 3 times. It has to be answered on the 3rd ring. Otherwise, that drives me mad when a million telephones are going. The questions, the client never gets asked a question about why he doesn't like the product, why does he want to return it. If it's damaged, change it. If he doesn't like it, refund him, replace it for him. And this is when I say, don't let money be the driver in business. Make the customer love you. Make them fall in love with you. IMS are the best company. I only make 1 phone call and they'll take the order back, they'll refund my money. And be disciplined. You know, don't squander your money on stupid things at the start of your business. Save it.
What advice would you give to your younger self? To that person who was in the carpet cleaning business?
Good question. What advice would I give myself? Maybe I should have worked a little bit harder at a young age.
Okay.
I think if I, or maybe that's the wrong answer. Understand the market better than I did when I first set up in business. I did a lot of things in a hurry, in a rush. Maybe I lost a bit of money, I lost a few deals because I wasn't concentrating on what I wanted. It's just exciting time and you forget your vision. You just see the money rolling in and you think, oh, I've made it. But really you haven't made it. And another advice, never ever get into debt. That was my biggest downfall, and this is why I struggled badly the first few years in my business, that I had a lot of debt to pay back.
Are you a risk taker?
Very, very calculated risk taker.
Because obviously businessmen often take risks in business.
You do, you have to, but I also learned something called the gut feeling, and I probably quite good with that. You could open a case in front of me and say, Durgham, there is 3 million worth of gold here, but if my gut feeling says there's something not right here, I'll walk away. Trust your instinct, trust your gut feeling, because the gut feeling, if you master that, you are ever hardly wrong.
What makes you tick? What gets you up in the morning?
Pressure.
From?
Pressure from business, problems, issues. I am at my best productivity when I'm under pressure to achieve. If I don't have pressure, I become very relaxed. If I don't have problems, I probably won't achieve. I need to have pressure and problems to make me tick.
Interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
We normally end our podcast with a quick fire round. Manchester United or Manchester City?
Oh my God, well, I should have worn red today because you were in blue, very much Manchester United.
Going out fine dining or staying in?
Staying in every day. I love my home, I love my family, I love staying in.
And finally, Kwasi Kwarteng or Rishi Sunak, or even neither?
Oh, to be honest, neither, but I would have preferred Rishi. Rishi is more of an economist. He's been our Chancellor for a number of years. He knows how the economy ticks, and I think he would have done a much better job. he would have still got us into a lot of trouble. And I will not blame him for that. I think also the economy and the global economy is not helping individual countries, but I think I liked Rishi very much. I think Rishi would have done a good job.
Durgham, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Stephen. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.